outside. Jeez, it's cold. It's like 20 degrees out there. Wind chills, low teens. Just took the dog out. I'm freezing. The dog's cold. She's like, let me get back inside. Let me do my business. So we're going to talk about some winter fishing techniques today. In particularly the finesse jig. Now when I'm fishing on the bottom, there's 3 baits that I go to in the wintertime. The shaky head, the tube, and a finesse jig. We did a shaky head video recently. If you haven't watched that, I'll leave the link at the end of this video, or you can click on this little flag dilly right here and that'll take you to the video. But finish watching this video first. The tube is another one that I like, and I'm going to do a video on that really soon. Today we're going to talk about the finesse jig. Now I've been fishing the finesse jig for quite some time, and I typically lean towards that 5/16 ounce. That's good for me personally, out to about 10 foot of water. If I'm fishing deeper, I'm going to go to like a 7/16. Some of the ones that I've fished over the years that I have confidence in are this little, let's see, I've got a bunch of jigs out here. This little bitsy bug, or the bitsy flip. It's made by Strike King. This is a real finessey little bait. It's got a pretty good hook in it. It's got a good weed guard on it. I like natural colors. The green pumpkins, watermelon, green pumpkin, melon, something like that. So that's one of them. Another one that I fish with a lot is, this is an Omega. It's a baby J. It's got that collar. And one thing about the collar, I usually, if I have the option, I'll buy a jig with a full skirt, and then I'll just trim that collar myself. You know, there's the little rubber band right there. You just grab all the material on the front part of that and you can just trim it yourself. That way you've got options. If you want a full skirt, you've got a full skirt. If you want to trim it down, give it that flare, you can do that. So that's a pretty good jig. It's made by Omega. It's called a Baby J. That's a 5/16. Jewel makes some good finesse jigs. You know, I've fished Jewel jigs for a while. The hooks kind of rust on them easy. You know, you've got to be careful. They make the 7/16, and then of course the 5/16, and they're a spider jig as well. They've got that trimmed finesse skirt around the front. Pretty decent jig. And then here's a jig that I just started fishing, and I'm falling in love with this, guys. This is a bad little mamma jamma here. This is the Moccasin Lures. It's their finesse jig. It has got a really good hook. The hook is a little bit bigger than, let me see, that Strike King Bitsy bug, or the Bitsy flip. It's just a little bit bigger hook, similar diameter. It's really, really stout. It's got a great weed guard. It's a custom weed guard. It's not too stiff, and it's not too flimsy. Does a great job. Thing I like about this jig, there's a couple things. I like this flat spot. This little jig will skip. Not that you're really going to be skipping much in the winter, but you've always got that option, and it does really good around wood. The problem I have with the Bitsy bug, it's good in grass. It's not so good around wood. It wants to roll on you and tends to get hung up a little bit more. The problem I have with the Omega Baby J is this hook. This is a really thin wire hook. I mean, you can see that thing flexing. If you're getting hung up, which you do with this jig, it's good because you can straighten it out, but you can only do that a couple times and bend it back, and it's eventually going to break off. I've had this pull out a couple times on fish, but it's still a decent jig. And this is a ball head, you know, the same way with this Jewel is the little ball head, which they do okay in rock, you know, but this other jig, this little finesse jig by Moccasin, this sucker comes through rock really good. And here's another thing you gotta look at with the finesse jig, the skirt. This is a really, really thin skirt, so it's got a lot of action in the water without much movement. You can actually keep that thing still in the water, and it kind of just flares out, which I really, really like. The Jewel skirt material is a little bit thicker, so it's a little bit stiffer in the water. And the colder the water, the more it affects that silicone. Any kind of plastic, when it gets in water, it really stiffens up. So that's some of the things you got to look for. This Moccasin comes in several different colors. The one I've been falling in love with is the melon color. This is a Texas pumpkin. You know, it's green pumpkin on the bottom. It's got that black on the top. They've got a mud bug, which is another really decent looking color. You probably can't see these because they're in the plastic. And They got moss crawl. I think that's actually a different jig, but anyway, several different colors. But all these jigs are really, really good. I've had good luck with them. It's just some are better than others. I think the moccasin has a little bit better hook. Skips better, comes through rocks really good. But if you can't find those, you know, they're all pretty good. But by the way, if you wanna order some of these moccasin lures, I'll leave you a discount code right here. Get you 20% off. It's a pretty sweet deal. Let's talk about some trailers now, okay? You're thinking not a lot of action in the wintertime. Typically, less action is best. I find with me, my confidence thing is just the standard, the little salty chunk, the small salty chunk made by Zoom. I've got that rigged up on this little Bitsy bug. There's two ways to do that. You can actually thread it on there like this, or you can just hang it off. You can just stick that sucker right through there and hang it off. And I don't know that it matters which side is up. Some people think it's a big deal one way or the other, but the downside to this is when you're casting it, it tends to helicopter. You know, so you got to watch it. You get a little line twist, but I think it has a better profile in the water and a little bit better action. When you thread it up there, it casts better, but it's a lot stiffer. So you know, it's up to you, whatever you want to do. Another one that I use a lot is the speed crawl. Got a bunch of stuff laid out here. Just the Zoom speed crawl. You guys have seen this. I like to throw these on the shaky head as well. It doesn't have a lot of action. You can actually tear these pinchers open a little bit. You can widen. This is something I do if I want more action. I don't recommend this in the winter time, but if you just take this and you just kind of split it just a little bit, it gives this thing a whole lot more action. It doesn't seem like it would, but it sure does. So you've got just the small salty chunk. You've got the speed crawl. When the water is a little bit warmer, but I want a finesse jig, like say if that water is like high 40s, low 50s, you can do this little swimming chunk. It's made by Zoom as well. It's got a lot more action, but if you're fishing the jig really slow and you're not moving your rod, even though that chunk has some kind of a paddle tail on it or some kind of, you know, like the rage flippers on it or whatever, if you're not imparting a lot of movement in that jig, you're not going to get a lot of action on that trailer. So a lot of it is just going about the profile. If you slow that thing down, it's not going to be doing this. It doesn't do that until you really start getting after it. Another trailer that I use a lot is a beaver. This is a full-size beaver, but the smallie beaver is a lot better for these finesse jigs. And I will actually take this and cut it in half. Just cut it right down the middle, split this, and put that on. The smallie beaver is better. These will work. This is a little bit fatter, but I recommend going to the smallie beaver. Another trailer that I like is the BB Cricket. Wrong color for a green pumpkin, but this has no action. It's very stiff. It's just that crawl fish profile. Sometimes they want that. Zoom makes one too. I can't remember what it's called. I've got several of those too. And you can use the little Z-Craw Junior. It's a little bit bigger profile, but it will work as well. Caught fish using that. And then another thing you can do, and I got this from Kevin Baxter from the Bait Man, and it works. I haven't thrown it as much, but it makes total sense. Is you can throw a little Yum Dinger or a little Baby Cinco or like this Fish Doctor on the back of that jig. It's like a jigging worm. I would probably cut this down in half. You can thread that on, or you can put you a little finesse worm on there. Same principle, just cut it in half. Gives it an even slimmer profile when the fish are super, super finicky. It's kind of like a Ned rig jig combo deal going on there. So that is really it on the jig, on the finesse jig. So finesse jig is a great way to catch fish in the winter. Some people like the bigger jigs. I personally like to go with the smaller jigs. I'm looking for bites. These finesse jigs, I'm throwing them on a 7-foot, a 7'3", medium heavy rod. I like a 12 to 14 pound test and a 7-1 gear ratio reel. I like a little bit faster reel. I use a 7-1 on just about everything. I was fishing that moccasin finesse jig the other day on this. It's the Lew's Magnum hammer. It's a 7'3". It's the LCL MH. This is the Custom Light Pro or is that what they call it? Yeah, the custom light speed stick. This is a killer rod, guys. I mean, this whole line is nice. It's got the wing grips on it. I really like this rod. I got several of these. They're real sensitive. They're really, really light. But this thing has a nice, soft tip. It's 7'3". It's made for chatterbaits and spinnerbaits and stuff. But look at that tip. It's great for throwing finesse stuff. You know, it loads up good. You can get that light stuff out there. So this is a great rod if you're in the market for a finesse jig rod that will double as chatterbait rod, spinnerbait rod. You could probably throw a light Carolina rig on that. Anything that you need some good soft tips. Small swim baits like your Kitex, the 3.8s in that range. That would be a killer rod for that. The other rod that I have that I've been throwing for years is a 7-foot medium heavy smoke. This is a really great blank. The guides, they don't hold up very well. I'm not a big fan of the micro guides. I bought a bunch of them when they first came out, and if you do a lot of co-angling where you're constantly putting the rod socks over your rods, these little micro guides seem to go through the rod socks and they just don't last as long. But this is a very sensitive blank. 7-foot medium heavy. I don't know, I'm thinking about getting these rods or these guides rewrapped, put some new guides on there because I really like this blank. So 7 foot to 7'3" medium heavy rod is perfect for these finesse jigs in the winter time. I hope this helps you guys pick some of this stuff up. I can help you out on that moccasin stuff. The rest of the stuff is pretty common. You know, you can find that out there anywhere. And throw that little finesse jig in the wintertime. Just be real slow, real methodical about it. Go with some light line, some 12 to 14 pound fluorocarbon. Just fish it real slow in the areas that you have confidence, and I think you'll catch some fish. So appreciate you watching. Thanks for all the support. By the way, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It really helps the channel out. If you haven't set up a YouTube account, and it doesn't take any time at all, it's just an email and a little password, and then you can support all the guys that you watch out there that you enjoy their content. It really, really helps us out. Hit the thumbs up and the little bell notification so anytime I'm dropping content, you'll be the first to know. Appreciate it, and until next time.